Today, we're diving into a fascinating piece of law that connects two things you might not expect to hear in the same sentence: artificial intelligence and tractors. Now, it might sound super specific, but it's actually a blueprint for how AI is going to be regulated across all sorts of critical industries. And this analysis, just so you know, was carried out under the scientific supervision of Professor Vihar Kiskinov, Doctor of Legal Science. So, let's start with the big question right up front. How do you even begin to regulate a self-driving tractor? I mean, this isn't some sci-fi hypothetical anymore. It is a really complex legal puzzle that the European Union has just tackled. And their solution, well, it reveals a pretty sophisticated game plan for managing the future of high-risk AI.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at how AI is showing up on the farm. Then we'll get into the two different legal worlds that are colliding here. We're going to zero in on the key legal tool they're using, something called Article 103, see what that means for the tractors, and then we'll zoom out to see why this is basically a model for all high-risk AI regulation moving forward.
Okay, so first up, AI meets the farm. And look, this isn't just about making things automatic. We're talking about machines that make their own decisions. And that creates a whole new world of challenges for regulators. This right here is the heart of the problem. For decades, the laws that keep our vehicles safe have been all about mechanics, physical engineering. But what happens when the most important safety part isn't a steel bar or a brake pad, but a piece of software? You've got the super fast-moving world of AI smashing right into the slow, deliberate world of product safety law. So, to really get the EU's solution, you have to understand the two very different legal systems they're working with. You can almost think of them as two separate worlds that now suddenly have to learn to speak the exact same language. On one side, you have the brand new, massive EU AI Act. It's what we call horizontal, meaning it stretches wide across every single industry. Finance, healthcare, you name it. Its job is to manage the risks of AI tech in general. Then, on the other side, you have a vertical law, the much older vehicle regulation. This one is deep but very narrow. It only cares about the safety of farm and forestry vehicles, things like brakes and rollover protection. So you've got two laws, two completely different ways of thinking. How on earth do you make them work together? Well, the answer is a really clever and, honestly, an elegant bit of legal engineering. It's called the legislative hook, and it's all packed into one single provision: Article 103 of the AI Act. The genius of this approach is really its efficiency. I mean, instead of taking on the massive job of rewriting the entire decades-old tractor safety law to include AI, the lawmakers created this hook. It's just a small, targeted change that latches the new AI Act onto the old vehicle law. And what this means is that as AI tech changes and evolves, you don't have to keep rewriting the tractor law. The hook just dynamically pulls in the latest AI safety standards. It basically makes the old law future-proof. Pretty smart, right? And this is it. This is the mechanism. It might look like a bunch of legal speak, but it's powerful. Delegated acts are basically just powers the European Commission has to create very specific technical rules without writing a whole new law. And this sentence here forces the Commission, when it's making rules for AI safety parts, to use the strict requirements from the AI Act. That little phrase, "shall be taken into account," that's lawyer talk for this is not optional. You have to do it.
This timeline is actually amazing because it shows how solid this idea was from the very beginning. While other parts of the AI Act, like facial recognition, were being debated like crazy for years, this legislative hook strategy, it just sailed right through every single stage. The Commission, the Council, the Parliament, all the big EU players agreed this was the way to go. It wasn't some last-minute addition, it was a core part of the design right from the start. So, let's walk through how this actually works in practice. Imagine a company invents a new AI system that can predict when a tractor is about to roll over and then automatically stabilizes it. That's a new safety feature. The EU Commission can then create a new technical standard for how that system has to work. And because of that hook in Article 103, that new standard is legally required to include all the high-risk AI rules about data quality, transparency, and human oversight. Okay, so what does all this mean for the tractors themselves in the real world? What are these new rules that the hook pulls in? First off, everything, and I mean everything, comes down to whether an AI system is considered a safety component. The definition in the AI Act is really broad, and that's on purpose. It covers anything that, if it fails, could put people or property in danger.
And that word property is so important for farming. It's not just the tractor we're talking about, it's the land, the crops, the livestock. The scope is way bigger than traditional safety rules. So what does this actually look like on a farm? Well, we're talking about things like the main autonomous navigation system. If that fails to spot a person, that's a huge safety risk. Or an intelligent sprayer that uses AI to tell the difference between crops and weeds. If that messes up and wipes out a whole field, that's a risk to property. Even systems that watch the driver for signs of being tired now count as an AI safety component.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. Let's translate these abstract rules into real-world challenges. Take data governance. That means a manufacturer can't just train its AI on sunny days in California. They have to prove it also works in a foggy field in Scotland or a snowy one in Finland. Human oversight means there has to be a big red button, basically, a simple, foolproof way for the farmer to take back control in a split second. And record keeping? That means the tractor has to log what it's doing, so if there's an accident, investigators can go back and see exactly what the AI was thinking. Okay, so for our final section, let's zoom all the way out, because this whole thing is about so much more than just farming. This legislative hook for tractors, it's the EU's test run for something much, much bigger. And here's the key takeaway. This exact legislative hook model is almost certainly going to be rolled out across other really critical areas. Think about AI in medical devices and airplanes in cars. Instead of writing brand new AI laws for every single one of those, the EU can use the same playbook to just hook the AI Act into the existing safety regulations that people already know and trust. The tractor industry is just the first one to go through it. Now, obviously, this approach comes with a pretty serious price tag. The costs to comply with all this are not small. We're talking potentially hundreds of thousands of euros for a single product. And some folks argue this could be a huge roadblock for smaller companies and maybe even slow down innovation. But on the flip side, the strategic upsides are massive. If you comply, you get guaranteed access to the huge EU single market. And maybe even more important, it builds trust. Being able to say your AI product is EU compliant could become a global stamp of quality and safety. That's a huge competitive edge. So, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. For 100 years, building a safe tractor was all about mechanical engineering. Now, it's also about algorithmic accountability. Manufacturers have to prove not just that their steel is strong, but that their data is fair, their models are solid, and their software is transparent. It's a total paradigm shift in what it means to build a safe product. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This whole new way of regulating started with tractors in a field. But where does it go from here? AI systems helping with surgery, AI that helps fly our planes. The precedent is now set. The question isn't if these systems will be regulated anymore, but how the lessons we're learning from the farm will shape the most important technologies of our future.